says good morning to all the boys and girls. This is my co-host Toby, who's going to welcome you to our service. Have you got anything to say, Toby? What? Okay. Wise words. Well, as we normally start our services, we're going to start with a song, and it's a golden oldie. It's called Who's the King of the Jungle?
Who's the king of the jungle? Who's the king of the sea? Who's the king of the universe? And who's the king of me? I'll tell you. J-E-S-U-S. He's the king of me. He's the king of the universe, the jungle and the sea. Bubble, 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 splash, splash. Who's the king of the jungle? Who's the king of the sea? Bubble, bubble, bubble. Who's the king of the universe? Who's the king of me? I'll tell you. J-E-S-U-S. He's the king of me. He's the king of the universe, the jungle and the sea. Bubble, 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 splash, splash. Yay!
Fantastic stuff.
This story is based on Mark chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. Jesus was teaching inside a house. It was very full and crowded. The Pharisees were there because they wanted to see Jesus make a mistake. Most of the crowd were there because they loved to listen to Jesus' stories. And the disciples were there because they wanted to learn about God. Outside the house, people crowded around, listening through the open door because they wanted to hear and see Jesus. In the town, there lived a man who was paralysed. He couldn't move his legs at all. His friends knew that Jesus could heal him, so they decided to take him to Jesus. Carefully, they placed him on a stretcher and they carried him all the way to the house where Jesus was teaching. But then they had a problem. It was so crowded that they couldn't get to see Jesus. They couldn't carry him through the door, on the stretcher, and there were far too many people. But the four friends were determined. They'd carried their friend all this way. They wanted to take him to Jesus for help, and they were not going to be turned back now. If they couldn't get in through the door, they would get in through the roof. So, carefully, they carried their friend up the stairs and onto the flat roof. Then they started banging and digging until they'd made a hole in the roof big enough to lower their friend through. They put ropes under the stretcher and very, very carefully lowered him down to the ground. Jesus stopped teaching and everybody stared as the man was lowered to the ground. Jesus looked up at the four friends who were peeping down from the roof through the hole that they'd made. He smiled at them. Then he looked at the paralysed man and said, "Your sins are forgiven." The Pharisees were really annoyed. Only God can forgive sins. Who does this man think he is? They grumbled. Jesus smiled. I have the power to forgive sins. Look, I'll prove it. And he said to the paralysed man, "Get up and walk." Then the man got up and he walked. He walked through the crowd and out of the door. He was completely well. He could walk again. But that isn't the most important thing about this story. Jesus forgave this man for every bad thing he had ever done too. Jesus gave him more than he could have ever hoped for that day. Complete forgiveness, acceptance, and a new life. The story we've heard today was about a group of friends who took their friend to see Jesus so that he could be healed. They knew that Jesus would help him if they could only get to him. They couldn't get through the door, but they didn't give up. They went onto the roof and they lowered him down. They asked Jesus to heal his body, but Jesus gave him so much more. Jesus wants to heal us from the bad things that we do inside, as well as heal our physical bodies. He cares about all of us, our minds and our spirits, as well as our bodies. By healing the man, Jesus showed that he cares about the whole person. He wants us to be accepted and forgiven. He showed God's love. The man's friends asked for his body to be healed, but Jesus gave the man so much more when he told him that his sins were forgiven. A sin is when we do something wrong. We all make mistakes. Maybe there's something this week that you wish hadn't happened and you wish you could take back, and maybe you'd like to say sorry for that. Perhaps you spoke rudely to your parents this week, or you were fighting with your brother or sister, or perhaps you want to ask God for help in telling the truth, especially in situations where telling the truth might get you into trouble. It's still the right choice to do that. We can all think of something this week, including me, that we have done or thought or said that we'd like to change and that we'd like God to help with. So we're going to say some sorry prayers now. We're going to pray for God to heal us and help us to make better choices. There's lots of ways that you can do this. Some people like to have a sorry bin, so you'd get a cup and then you would write your prayers on that, and then you could scrunch them up and you could throw them in. Now, I had thought about doing this, but I'm not very good at actually throwing things. I wouldn't get them in, they'd all go on the floor, so it wouldn't be very good. So I decided not to do that. But you could, if you're good at sort of, throwing things in, you could put it over there and you could chuck it in, and you could have a little family competition to see who could get all of their prayers in as a creative prayer method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write our sorry prayers in water on this blackboard. If you haven't got a blackboard, you could use the outside walls of your house if you're allowed. You could even use your fence, but you might need a bit of a chunky paintbrush for that. As we write the prayers on here, we'll pray about each one of them, and we'll give all of these things to God, knowing that when we say sorry, that God wipes the slate clean, and that we're clean and we're new again in him. So we could write, I was a bit grumpy before school this morning, so I'm going to write crosswords. I can't see it very well.
You see it really well, actually.
Can you?
Mm.
Oh, that's good. Cross words. Oh, it's dripping. Oh well, be dry in a minute, hopefully. Perhaps we could put maybe not being helpful, so being unhelpful. So maybe when you get asked to do something that would help and you choose not to. Oh, it's gone a bit sideways. Maybe you have been unkind to someone this week. Oh, I can't fit unkindness on, so we'll just put unkind there. And that will be dry in a few moments. So we're just going to pray for those things now. You can do the prayer drill at home if you like. I don't have my helpers today. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Dear God, we give all of these things to you that we have written on this board, and the things that we don't feel able to say out loud. You know what's on our hearts. You know the things that we need to say sorry for. Thank you that you love us. even though we are sinners, even though we get it wrong. And thank you that you want to forgive us and that you want to help us to live our very best lives. Are you ready for a big amen? Amen.